Hey guys, welcome back to the Pizza Story podcast. I'm here with Nick Fiorentino, and he actually started a really amazing group in Pittsburgh called Pittsburgh Italians. So, hey Nick, thanks for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Of course, I'm glad you're here. So, let's just get into it. I actually found your group on Instagram, and I'm a follower because I'm from Pittsburgh and I'm Italian. And I just want to hear a little bit about, first of all, your heritage and where you're from Italy.
Okay, well, first of all, I'm half Italian. My mom's from El Salvador. I get my Italian from my dad's side. He's 100% Italian American. He grew up in Lower Burrell area, which is about like 30 to 40 minutes outside of Pittsburgh. I think it's like northeast of Pittsburgh. And growing up, he would always tell me stories about how his community used to be much more Italian American when he was growing up. He would hear a lot more people speak Italian. He would tell me a lot of stories about family members. Unfortunately, I never got to meet my grandparents on either side. But most of the stories that I've heard actually came from my father. He would tell me about what his mom used to cook. He would tell me about all the aunts and uncles he had, which he had a lot because back in those days, especially, like all the Italians were pretty much Catholic, so they would always just like get married at a young age, stay married throughout their whole life, and they would have a bunch of kids. So I think his mom had like maybe 8 or 9 siblings, something like that. And it was kind of hard for me to keep track of all of them like in my head because I didn't know most of them personally. Unfortunately, I think there was at least one of my great aunts. I never met her when she was living, but I ended up going to her like funeral viewing when she died, and it was things like that that kind of opened up my mind and my eyes. I was like, wow, I have a lot more family than I realized because I didn't grow up hanging around with some of those family members. Unfortunately, as time went on, uh, and all those siblings and relatives started having their own families, the family tree just kept branching off, and then each section would start hanging out more often and not really hanging out with the other parts of the family as much. But there were a couple of great aunts and uncles that I got to meet when I was younger. Even my dad's sister. It's kind of funny. I called her Tia Pat. I got that
Hmm.
from my mom because my mom speaks Spanish, but she wasn't actually Spanish herself. She should have been my Zia Pat because she was Italian. So she was always cooking, always in the kitchen growing up. She was always the host of all the family get-together. She was the matriarch of the family. She passed away in, I think it was like 2011 when I was in college. Um, and that was a very sad time during my life because I just really loved her. She was probably the closest thing to a grandma that I had because she was always like an older woman in my life, and she was always the one that took care of the family and everything. So I just really miss her, and I just try to keep my memory of her alive, as well as the other relatives that did get a chance to meet. But growing up, I also heard stories of like the Sunday get-togethers. Even my mom got to experience that because when she moved to the United States and married my dad, a lot of those people were still around, so they would do their Sunday dinners together. And I just always felt like I really missed out on a really good time in our family's history because we just don't really do that anymore. I mean, growing up, I did pretty much eat spaghetti and other forms of pasta every Sunday, but it was more just like my immediate family that would do that. It wasn't really like with all the cousins and aunts and uncles like it used to happen. So I just grew up with that in my mind that I missed out on a lot of the traditions and the culture that the previous generations had. And then with my last name being Fiorentino, I started going to school at a young age and started to try to learn how to write my name out. And I would tell people what my last name was. I started to realize how different my last name was compared to a lot of other people. A lot of people had a hard time pronouncing it. A lot of people thought it was a pretty long name. So that always stuck in my mind too, about how like I have this very Italian sounding last name that a lot of people around here aren't really used to. And
Yeah.
growing up, there was also a lot of local Italian owned businesses, Italian American businesses, bakeries,
Yeah.
grocery stores. And as I got older, I just kept seeing a lot of them close down. And I just was really sad about that because those are childhood memories, some of the best memories I had. They had great food.
Yeah.
So it's like all these things together is like kind of what like helped form my identity and always like gave me so much pride in being Italian American, but also some sadness as an Italian American because I just started to see that the culture was dying out over time.
Yeah.
And I've always just had that in my mind that I wish Pittsburgh could preserve that aspect of our city a little bit better. And I always felt like maybe there are other Italian Americans out there that can relate to my story and kind of like feel the same way I feel. So that's part of the reason why I started Pittsburgh Italians. But
Okay.
to go in deeper about like actually how or why I started Pittsburgh Italians,
Yeah.
this was back in like 2023 in the fall. I always wanted to go to the Columbus Day Parade because I knew that was like a big Italian celebration. So
Yeah.
I was telling my fiance, she was my girlfriend at the time, I was telling her
Mhm.
I really want to go this year. I've never been to it in Pittsburgh, uh, but I just want to see like what it's all about.
Yeah.
So we were looking everywhere, and we couldn't find anything about the parade. Usually they post it in the news or something, but that year for some reason they didn't. There was like no promotion for it. But luckily, we just happened to be involved in this Facebook group. It was like for Oakmont residents, and
Mhm.
one of the ladies that puts together that parade, her name is Kathy Costa. Uh, her other last name is Fusca, I believe. She
Mhm.
posted in that group about the parade, and my fiance told me about it. So we ended up going. But I was wondering, I was like, why is it so hard to like hear about this parade? Like, why is there not like very good promotion for the parade? Like, I was trying to find information about the parade, but
Yeah.
if I wasn't part of that Facebook group, I wouldn't have even known like what day it was or what time it was. So we ended up going. My sister came. She brought her three kids. It was really nice. We dressed up with like Italian clothes, Italian colors. We brought our little Italian flags, and we had a really good time. And that that parade really opened up my eyes to how many Italian organizations and clubs are still around in Pittsburgh,
Mhm.
because the parade had plenty of them. And it was I just started like taking notes. I was like, oh, what's this club? Like I need to like look more information on them. Like I just wanted to see what it was all about. And so after that parade was over, I was just like had a lot of inspiration and motivation. I was just like, I think that if someone actually put forth a little bit of effort on social media to like create some sort of platform where we can like unify all of the local Italian American community and organizations, maybe it would help promote these events a little bit better and maybe like
Yeah.
produce like a better turnout. So that was my main motivation. So I looked online and I figured there were probably a lot of other Pittsburgh Italian pages already, which there are. There's a couple Facebook groups. There was an
Yeah.
Instagram page at the time, and I looked at it, and they hadn't posted in like 2 years.
Wow.
So I reached out to them and I asked them like, "Are you still active? Because I'm kind of interested in starting something similar." But I didn't receive a message for a couple of days, so I was kind of antsy, and I just decided to start my own regardless because they weren't like very active anyway. So I had to add 412 to the username
Yeah.
because I couldn't
I was
take
going
their
to ask you
username.
about that.
Yeah, I'm trying to do this for a reason. I'm trying to like unify the community. I think it needs to be an active account, and I don't really know that anyone can like really claim ownership to the name Pittsburgh Italians. I think that one person should own that name. Like personally, I don't like view it as like a business. I'm not really making money from it.
Yeah.
I'm
It's just
doing
a
it out of
group.
passion. I'm doing it
Yeah.
for the community. So like it's all of us together.
Mhm.
So I just
Mhm.
wanted to like use a little bit of my knowledge that I have Instagram and social media and branding to try to create something a little bit better that Pittsburgh hasn't had yet. And
Mhm.
then,
Did you grow up in Pittsburgh?
not in Pittsburgh. I grew
Mhm.
up kind of close to where my dad grew up, kind of out by Lower Borough. I grew up in
Yeah.
this town called like Leechburg, but technically I grew up in Gilpin Township, which is like a
Yeah.
pretty rural area.
Mhm.
Basically,
Western
I grew up
PA.
on a farm. Like it had a lot. We had a lot of acres, so
Yeah, we talked, I know, for a few minutes before the interview that so many people immigrated to Western PA from Italy.
yep,
I mean, I know my family, they're from Abruzzo. I know you have family from Abruzzo, and then you told me a couple other places where you have people, right?
yeah. So on my dad's side, one half of his family is from Abruzzo, and the other half.
Mhm.
Growing up, I always thought that they were from Naples, which like they kind of are. They sailed out of Naples. That was the closest port for them.
Yeah.
But I think technically they were from Caserta because
Mhm.
when we looked up the documents online, we saw that they were from Caserta, which is probably about an hour and like maybe like an hour and a half outside of Naples. So it's still kind of Naples, but Caserta.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, let's go back to Pittsburgh Italians. So, I know there's a lot of Italians in Pittsburgh. I mean, I
Mhm.
know this because I grew up there and we, we go to the Strip District a lot. We go to Penn Mac. There's a lot of places that are Italian inspired. So tell me a little bit about some of your favorite events and things that you promote on the page that people should know about who are in Pittsburgh.
Well, I already mentioned the Columbus Day Parade, so that's definitely one of my favorite events.
Yeah,
It's a little bit controversial these days for political reasons, but I don't think it really needs to be.
sure.
They've made the parade very like inclusive. Like it's not just for Italians. Like I'm kind of torn in that sense because like I would like to have something that's like our own thing, but at the same time I recognize the controversy involved with the parade, so they incorporate some other cultures into it too. I think they have like Irish dancers. They've had Native Americans participate in the past, but I think in the last year the Native Americans didn't want to participate for some reason. And then they had I think some Jamaicans involved in the parade and other groups that I don't remember right now, but
Yeah.
some other events that are notable, I would say, like in Morningside. I was told that Morningside is probably like the most densely concentrated neighborhood of Pittsburgh that still has a lot of Italian Americans because a lot of the people that used to like live in Larimer, which used to be the Little Italy of Pittsburgh, moved down to Morningside. So a lot of those residents are Italian Americans, and they have a church over there. I think it's called St. Raphael's, and they do this San Rocco festival every year where they have like a whole procession in the streets. And I haven't participated in that yet. After that, after the Columbus Day Parade, and I was like looking into all these clubs and groups, I saw photos of the procession. So I really wanted to go to that and check it out for myself. But unfortunately, I was out of town this past year, so I couldn't do that. Um,
Mhm.
but another one is there's another San Rocco festival which takes place on a separate weekend, and that's done by the San Rocco Foundation, which I believe is from Aliquippa, and that's probably the largest Italian American event in the whole like Western PA region. There's a lot of people that go out for that, and they take a lot of pride in it, and they really have a lot of fun. And same thing for that. I was out of town; I couldn't go to it this year or this past year, but I'm hopefully going to be able to go this year. Aside from that, I mean, there's all kinds. There's a lot more events than I even thought when I originally started this page. Um, there's the St. Anthony's Festival that takes place in the Strip District.
Mhm.
I don't know how to pronounce the church's name. It's like, I want to say it's like some sort of Eastern European name. But yeah, they have a festival down there and they have a procession for that. I did participate in that one this past year. That was a lot of fun. So I definitely recommend going to that. That event, I would say had a similar issue to the Columbus Day parade, where I believe that they didn't really promote it very well. Like, they did have a billboard near one of the bridges, but in my opinion, that billboard probably didn't reach the right demographic because it's like tied to that specific area. Maybe like a lot of people that didn't want to, maybe a lot of people that would want to go to that festival didn't get to see that billboard. Like, I never saw the billboard. The only reason I heard about that festival was because I ended up joining the Calabria Club, and they
Yeah.
told me that they were going to be a vendor there. So that's why I showed up.
Okay.
Another event would be like, so I'm part of the Calabria Club, like I just mentioned, and they have this thing
Hmm.
called the Vendemmia every year, which is where they like bring out this old school Italian wagon. They put a bunch of grapes into it. I believe the grapes come from California, because
Hmm.
if you use the grapes from Pennsylvania, from like Lake Erie area, you have to add sugar to it in order to make it like taste good in the wine.
Yeah.
So if you want to just use pure grapes, you got to get them from California.
Hmm.
So we put the grapes in there, and then we have like anyone who wants to do it can get in and stomp on the grapes with your bare feet. And yeah, we had a DJ this past year, like probably the biggest local Italian American influencer. His name's Jimmy Big Muscles on Instagram, and he was there this past year and he DJ'd. And then we had a local, I believe he's a monk, uh, from like St. Vincent's College, and he came and he brought his organ, played. It's like an organetto.
Wow.
That's like a more authentic Italian form of the accordion. So
My
that was.
grandfather played that.
Do you guys still
Yeah.
have it?
Yeah, we still have it actually.
Does anyone play it anymore? Or it's just sitting around.
No, I mean, he has some old friends that they went to a music school. There was a music school in Western PA, and they'll come in and play the accordion. Sometimes we'll have them at my parents have a restaurant. My grandfather opened this pizzeria in 1960, and so sometimes we'll have them come and play. But when my grandfather was alive, he used to play the accordion in the restaurant, and it was really cool.
Someone in the family needs to learn it.
I'm
I
going
don't
to tell
think.
my brother. He's musical.
Yeah, I bought one several months ago, and I started learning it. I live in an apartment right now, so it's kind of loud to be playing here. But
Yeah.
I'm going to be moving to a house pretty soon, so I'm definitely going to start practicing it a lot more.
Yeah.
But I would say it's probably easier to get into than the accordion because it has fewer keys on it.
Hmm.
So that's another thing I would want to encourage as many uh, people who are interested in the Italian American culture in Western PA to try to pick up the organetto, because we don't have too many organetto players around. Most people play the accordion around here, and even that is still kind of rare. So I would like to have someone start coming to these events and playing the organetto.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. All right, let's get to the important part here. Not that the rest of it wasn't, it was all important, but the food.
Yeah.
All right, so what are your favorite places in Pittsburgh that serves the best Italian food?
Well, in terms of pizza right now, I would say my favorite place is probably Pizza Lupo in Lawrenceville. And
Okay.
the other one is New York, Slice of New York Pizza Shop, which is over in like Irwin. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
exactly sure, or like near Murraysville or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
As far as restaurants goes, I mean, like I have a list of restaurants that I want to check out that I haven't been to yet. So, like most of the Italian American restaurants around here these days, honestly, I'm not a huge fan of, and that's kind of one thing that I'm trying to like kind of influence with my page. There's one that I'm thinking of right now, but I kind of forget the name of it in this moment. I want to say it's pizza. I think it's Il Pizzaiolo. I believe that's
Okay.
the one that I really like. I think if it's the one I'm thinking of, they have a location in Mount Lebanon. They have a location kind of near Carmerville. And I think they have one downtown and like one somewhere else. So right now, that's probably my favorite spot.
Okay. Have you been to Legends of the North Shore?
No, that's actually on my list.
So I've gone a bunch of times, and that's kind of where we go if we have like a family celebration. It's so good. It's one of the best Italian places in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I've heard good things, and from what I've seen online, I don't think I'm going to be disappointed. So it's just a matter of me like taking the time to get over there because I really don't go over to that area too often. But next time I want to go out to eat, maybe I'll try that spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, also don't hesitate to take a drive out to Wimber, PA to DRX Pizza.
Yeah, you guys are like that's basically Johnstown, right?
Yeah, it's basically Johnstown. It's very close. Yep.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to check it out sometime.
Yeah, they're open Thursday through Sunday from 3 to 9, but that's my family's place. And if you let me know that you're going there, I'll tell my dad to come in. But they have like, pizza that my grandfather created back 1960 when he opened, and homemade meatballs and chicken cutlets and all kinds of good stuff there.
There's a lot of good ones around. I still try to support because we only have so many around here. Like I said before, a lot of them have closed down over the years. So
Yeah.
I try to support them and just try to maintain like interest in Italian food around here. So that way,
Yeah.
like hopefully people continue to raise their standards for it.
Nick, what's your favorite Italian food?
Oh man, that's hard. I don't know if I have one. I would say I like to stay with like the foods that aren't like as common around this area. So like I went to Naples a few times over the last few years. I really like um, their pizza frita, which like
Yeah.
I don't even know if you can get that around here in Pittsburgh. I like
My grandma used to make them.
yeah.
Yeah.
I like Schwoyadel. There's not too many places around Pittsburgh that sell those, but there are a few. I like what else? I like just like different kinds of pastas that are aside from like the normal like spaghetti and rigatoni. Like I still like those, but to me at this point those are like a little bit boring because you see those like everywhere in Pittsburgh. I like Neapolitan pizza, but I also like Italian American pizza. A lot of people will tell you Italian American pizza, specifically like from Connecticut, New Haven style pizza. A lot of people would say that that's actually better than the pizza that you'll find in Italy.
Hmm. Okay. That's interesting, right?
Yeah, I mean, have you checked out Barstool's like one bite pizza reviews?
Oh yeah, I watch them all. I've actually been stalking him to come to DRX Pizza. So if he ever sees this, like DRX Pizza, please go there.
What kind of rating do you think he'll give you guys?
I feel like we would probably get at least a high 7.
Yeah, what style of pizza do you guys make?
So we have 2 styles of pizza, and I think what he's gonna like is the round thin pie, which is called the Mike's pie, and then we have like it's a little bit thicker. It's a rectangular pie, and it's a 15 slice pizza. It's
Is that like
super
a
delicious.
Sicilian pizza?
It is a little bit like that, but I would tell you it's a little bit thinner.
Okay.
It's an Abruzzo style pizza. It's the one that my grandfather initially created, and we do a mozzarella and a provolone cheese and some parmesan, and it's super good.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely would have to say he probably would prefer the thin style pizza that you
Yeah.
guys have because those are usually the ones that he scores the highest. He
Yeah.
likes them crispy and thin, and that's what New Haven pizza is like. So that I when I was living down in Florida, there was this place called a Beats Pizza, which started in New Haven. So I never had New Haven style pizza before, so I had to go out there and try it. I had to drive like maybe like an hour and a half to go there. But
Yeah.
I do have to say it was worth it, especially coming from Pittsburgh where we don't have like any places like that. It definitely stood out for me. So I would like to see Pittsburgh open up a New Haven style pizza place.
Yeah, I would like to see that too. So if somebody wants to join their group, how do they reach you?
Uh, like join Pittsburgh Italians.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't really say Pittsburgh Italians as a group. It's more just like a page and a community. So we have a Facebook page called Pittsburgh Italians, which is
Mm-hmm.
separate from the groups. So a lot of people might be confused by that. There's a couple
Okay.
groups, like Facebook groups called I don't like one is called like WAI Pittsburgh Italians, I believe, and the other one might
Mm-hmm.
just be Pittsburgh Italians, and both of them have thousands and thousands of people who are members of those groups, but mine is an actual page with the same logo as the Instagram page.
Okay.
And the Instagram page, the username is Pittsburgh Italians 412. So just follow me on those pages and you can keep up with like all the events that are going on around the city. But I would encourage people to join any clubs that you have around you. There's the Calabria Club. If you're out in Aliquippa, you can join the MPI Club or San Rocca Foundation. There's a bunch of other clubs around. But I did start a Scopa meetup group. It's just
Okay.
called Pittsburgh Scopa. So if you want to join that group, you can either follow the page on the meetups website, or you can DM me on Instagram and I can add you to our group chat. And we have meetups once a month at a different Italian American business. And we just play Italian card games like Scopa mostly. And then a few of us just started learning Briscola, which is a little bit harder to get into than Scopa, but I think it'll keep things a little bit more interesting.
That's awesome. Now, what does the future look like for Pittsburgh Italians?
My whole vision at the beginning was basically just to like unify the community, create a platform to promote events. So like that's what I've been trying to do since the beginning, and that's what I continue trying to do in the future. I'm not really trying to like be famous from the page or anything. I was trying to mostly target people in the Pittsburgh area because that's the community that I'm trying to like be involved with the most. But I did notice that I've been getting a lot of followers from outside of Pittsburgh,
Hmm.
um, even people who aren't Italian American, but a lot of people who are Italian American, even from like New York and New Jersey, who might not know as much about Pittsburgh's Italian American culture. I guess they're supporting the page just because they support the culture in America in general. But future for Pittsburgh Italians would just be like I just hope to continue growing, to continue getting exposure, so that way I can continue uh, building a platform to promote local Italian American businesses, maybe help make them nationally famous if I have national followers on the page. Um, and then hopefully get a lot of these Italian American events like the parades and the processions and the festivals to thrive more than they have been in recent years. Maybe bring them back to what they used to be back in the day. They had like much larger turnouts. The Pittsburgh Pirates and Pittsburgh Penguins, they both had Italian American nights. So I would like to get more involved with that. I think it's great that they do that. I think the Pirates have been doing it for a while. The Penguins dabbled in it, and this past year it turned out really well for them. They created a Penguins jersey that had the Italian American flag colors on it, which was, I think, turned out to be a lot more popular than they anticipated. They originally only printed like 200 of them, and they sold out very quickly. Kennywood used to have an Italian American Day. And
I
I think
remember
that,
that.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I always heard that that was super popular and that Kennywood would just be filled with Italians everywhere back in the day. That's another thing I feel like I missed out on. Like we'll probably never get that again, where you can show up at Kennywood and it's just Italians everywhere. But I hope they bring that back.
Yeah.
I guess another thing for the future of Pittsburgh Italians, I want to continue building relationships with native Italians. So we do have some people that are immigrants from Italy and Pittsburgh that moved here for work or for various reasons. We have a Pittsburgh school here called La Scuola, and
Hmm.
they have some native Italian speakers that work there, and I've met some of them. And then for the Columbus Day parade this past year, we also had, I think it was a high school from Italy that came into town, and they were kind of just like touring around like different cities in Pittsburgh and in America, and they participated in the parade this year. So I reached out to them and I told them, I was like, hey, we were very happy to have you this year. We hope you guys come back. If you guys ever need anything in America or Pittsburgh, let me know. And I've been also talking to a guy who's, I think he's a teacher at a high school, um, somewhere near Venice. and he's from
Mhm.
Pittsburgh. And I told him, like, let your school know that if anyone needs anything, like even if it's like their students graduate and they need a job and they want to move to America or something, maybe I could like put you guys into like connect you with some local Italian American businesses that would be happy to have you, like something like that. Like I just want to continue to raise the standards of the Italian American culture in Pittsburgh and like try to get it through.
Yeah, I love it. I totally agree with you. All right, guys. So I want you to go and follow them. Pittsburgh Italians 412 is the Instagram handle. And there, what you can do is you can connect with Nick and you can join his group, or you can follow the page and be involved in events in Pittsburgh for Italians. And Nick, thank you so much for being on my podcast.
All right, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, of course.